This video is our homeschool picks for 2025. Now it's about a 3-month grouping because that's how I like to plan our homeschool, is about 3 months at a time. You can see that I have them laid out here behind me kind of in those groups, and we're gonna go through that. But what you're going to notice is that largely they are all based on Europe, and there is a reason for that. So let's start off with what we are currently using and then go through the next one. Stick with me here. There are some really fun things. This is actually one of our top books that we are using currently. It is Mapping Europe and has been so much fun in our house. So as an example, it takes you through, and each day you add on a different part of Europe. I'm tweaking just about everything because I have a very specific goal in mind of where we are going. So almost all of these I'm putting my own twist on. But as you're doing Mapping Europe, what happens is they teach you how to chunk areas. So, well, this one is Russia, and they tell you, well, it's like a dinosaur with a spiky mountain back for the Ural Mountains, and then there's this like drop of water going into the Black Sea. That's the Sea of Azov. Now there's like Santa's bag here, which is Eastern Europe, and then within that there are, is it 8 or 12 countries? I think that one's 8 countries. I'm not spending time on that right now. Yes, Ukraine is in there. I've pointed out to my children where that is specifically because it's so in the news right now, but we are not going to focus strictly on Eastern Europe. Here, let me show you. So if you were using the actual book, it would then break up each of those and teach you what each country is within that Santa's bag looking area, but we aren't focusing really on those countries right now. There are some others that I specifically want to get to. Then you add on the Balkan bird, and then we said that like the wing kind of looks greasy and there's like these drips coming off of it here that would be like grease dripping off. So it has been really fun. And in fact, I have heard my kids in the other room, we found this game that I didn't even realize we had. I love learning about countries so much. I didn't even remember that we had this game, but you spin the dial, and when it lands on a country, you have to find it on that map. I heard my son in the other room, and he said, okay, Greece. Well, there's the dinosaur's head, and there's the Balkan bird, and so there's Greece. And I was like, what is going on? And I went to the other room. This book has really taught my kids the countries super well. So we moved over, and there's the hamster, of course, the boot. We just did Great Britain, which is like a snail. I just think this is such a fun way to learn geography, and it is really working for my kids. So thank you to my friend who recommended this series to us. There are ones from all different countries or continents that you can be learning about, and I think it's really working, and so I'm really excited about this. Let me show you these two. So as we're doing that mapping, they all go in their little journals here. I love having these little brown journals for the things that we are doing. But each one has one. We're doing it as a family, so this one's actually my husband's too. And then as we add on a different country, they might add like a little, like that's a baguette down there, or like he drew the snail for Great Britain. So they're just doing these little visual things. This is a really fun way to be keeping all of that mapping in these little journals. Along with this then, I considered using Gather Round's Europe Unit Study. We did this one maybe like 4 years ago now, and it is one of my favorite lessons from Gather Round. We had so much fun going through it and learning about 20 countries in Europe. We are using it a little bit sometimes when we learn about countries that I want specifically for my kids to be learning about. I will just open it to that lesson. So, okay, this is not one of them, but let's say Latvia. Then we would just read about Latvia. We would read the food that is there. We have special attention to like an invention that was there. There's animals, there's topography. That's the right word, right? yeah. History and culture and transportation in that area. And then if you go on with the workbook for this one, it really gets into, It really gets into like the periodic table even. And I remember learning about Marie Curie back in the time. We actually were reading Louis Pasteur. Well, with this, because I knew France would be coming up and I wanted to learn some about him. We started it when we were doing the God Made Me series, which focuses on the anatomy. This one in January, we did a heavy focus on science for 20 days. We did the 20 lessons in this one. Now we have slowed down and we are just doing one lesson a week to finish out this book. But while we were doing this one, I brought in Louis Pasteur, and then that helped us transition into learning about Europe as well. And so when we learned about France, it was like really fun because we already had that. I'm going to talk about this more when I do my video on our read aloud reviews, but I really like the Sower series, which this is from. So we're not using Gather Round fully, strictly. What we are doing is, as we're learning about those countries, we're looking up like travel videos on YouTube, or like kids trying food from that country, or geography. Now, I don't recommend all of these necessarily. Like, you might want to preview some of them on YouTube, and I don't have like a running playlist that I recommend, but it is really fun to watch like top 10 places to visit in this country and just kind of get that visual. So we do that. Also, we have been doing this is kind of complicated, but we've been doing this in the order of this. So you guys know I love Generations curriculum and have really felt that my priority for my children is not teaching them what the public school system deems necessary as history. My goal is to teach them the history of God's people and the spread of the gospel. And that is what Generations does. So this book, Taking Europe for Jesus, is all about the spread of the gospel. So we have been learning just so much. We've been learning about creeds. We've been learning about bishops. Now, this is a Reformed theology, so I appreciate the direction and the way that it handles a lot of these things and topics. We just got to, Great Britain and the spread there. There is some heavy stuff about like emperors who had massacres of the Thessalonica. It was crazy, but we're going to do this up to a certain point. Then we're going to stop and we're going to transition to something else. So how do I manage all of this? And I'll move on to the next thing in a little bit. I don't really want you to see my writing and everything, but do you see that there's like colors on there? I went through and I color coordinated. Okay, we're gonna read this chapter on this day and it aligns with this. Actually, also, this is technically a 6th grade level curriculum, so it is written for older kids. My boys tend to keep up with it really well. They range from 7 to 11, but there's also level 1, which has a lot of stories, the similar stories or overlapping timelines in here. So I also went through and color coordinated what were some of the stories in here that were there. So like, here's the Council of Nicaea. So instead of reading this one, or along with reading this one, I might read from here so that it's a little bit easier for the kids to understand. There's always faith lessons. No, we are not doing the workbooks that go along with this. Here's Spain. So when we did Spain, we read this one here. We also have been using the Torchlighter series that you can watch these on YouTube or Right Now Media. And so we did like Augustine, St. Patrick is on here. These are really helpful storytelling and visuals for the kids as well to understand some of those things. So I love it. I think this has been going super well. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, that pretty much covers that. Now, beyond that, oh yes, also learning about Europe, you have to learn The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, right? And then just some extra picture books that we have been enjoying. Now, we actually did gather rounds, what's it called? Like Middle Ages study. So when we put a pause on what we are currently doing, we're going to just do a little review. Let's see, and here's some fun books. Oh, here, like The Making of a Knight. That's a really fun book. We might do that. I just have some picture books in here. Oh, The Squire and the Scroll. Such a good book. Okay, so we're gonna do like a little review about knights and castles, but what I'm most excited to learn about this time is Vikings. So I have the Gather Round Viking teacher guide printed out. And if you follow me, you know I don't do well with doing what I'm told. I like to use curriculum as an outline, an example of what to use, because there's so many things I don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, right? So these help to just make sure that we're covering everything. But I think we're gonna use this one pretty close, and I'll probably actually print out the workbooks also this time for the kids to do. I know, crazy that I would actually use it the way that it's supposed to be used. I'm so excited to do this Vikings unit study with them. We have just started this book, The Dragon and the Raven, which talks about King Alfred. And so yeah, I don't know a whole bunch about it yet, but I'll also include this one in my read aloud review when we do that. When we are done with that, we will probably then pick up this book again a little bit just to like catch up and see what overlapped with that Viking time there. But then we're going to go on to Renaissance and Revival with Gather Round. I bound this one different. I just had one of these things that it's clipped in right now. I'm of course excited to do this one, learning about the Reformation period, Martin Luther, John Calvin. We have some books set aside for that, from Trailblazers, The Queen's Smuggler, Spy for the Night Rider, some Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, I have some others too, but I don't know much about them yet. And I'm just getting prepared and so excited to be learning about this time frame with the kids. This is a time frame that we have not covered at all, and I am learning along with my children. That is what homeschooling is like beautiful for. Even though I went to a Christian college even, and yes, I know some of these things, I am so excited to learn more about it as well. So that is our plan, and then we're going to Europe. I'm so excited. We are going to Europe this summer. We are still working on our plans. So if you have been to Europe, if you've been to Germany, Norway, or Great Britain, let me know. What do I have to do? Give me tips on traveling and all kinds of things. I'm so excited about that. And I'll probably share more about that trip eventually over on my other channel. It's currently called Bear Hill Adventures, but I think we're going to change it to Family Style Adventures. I also share about books from around the world that you can use to help teach your kids. So like a lot of these actually, look, I still have all of these up here. Can you see them? These are like some that we're planning to read. I share about those books on that other channel, so you can learn more about them there as well. What do you think? Am I completely crazy, or like, do you kind of piece your schoolwork together this way too? Let me know down below. What about math and language arts? Well, to see what we are currently using and plan to continue using, go ahead and click on one of these two videos.